second lecture of week 12 of ICS 104. Any questions before we proceed? طيب. احنا we do have a lecture next Saturday, صح؟
Yes.
أي نعم.
Will be
Yes.
Tuesday classes.
Yes, it will be basically a Tuesday class. فاحنا إن شاء الله what we will do is we will take that class on Saturday. طيب. But hopefully we will try to finish, as early as possible, so that inshallah you will have time to study for your final exams. Okay.
Thank you, Doctor.
Inshallah we will see. يعني basically what I plan to do, if we have leftover lectures, I will be available, but it will not be a lecture. If anybody has any question, if anybody has any concern, we can go over them. But there will be no specific lecture, and attendance will not be obligatory. It's basically optional. It's just like additional office hours. Okay.
So, Doctor, we most likely to finalize everything in the course at Tuesday and Saturday class.
Saturday? لا, I don't think so. We still have, but what I'm saying is we will not, take our classes until the last class. Yani we will try to finish before the last class. If we finish before the last class, we'll try our best.
تمام.
Okay. Right. Okay, so let me share the screen then. Okay. Okay. So this is basically where we stopped day before yesterday. We stopped at input output. We stopped at basically the data types in C. We talked about the double, which is kind of similar to the float, and the int. And the last thing is we looked at the character. We looked at the character data type, right? So now let us look at input output. How do we, carry out input output in C? Well, of course, by now you know what's an input operation: data transfer from the outside world into the computer memory, and the output operation is the program results that can be displayed to the program user. The input-output functions are basically the printf and the scanf. Okay, the printf and the scanf. So printf, which is kind of similar to print, and we will see that actually there are striking similarities between them. Scanf is way different from the input function in Python. So we will see, inshallah, how it works. Okay. Right. We already, the concept of a function call, which is basically used to call or activate a function asking, another piece of code to do some work for you. We already know the concept of a function. So this is basically kind of the example of the printf function. And you can see here in the printf function, the first argument is basically what we call a format string. It's a format string. So this format string, as you see, contains, for example, just a regular string, that equals kilometers. And also it contains, this %f, and \n. طيب, do you already know what's a \n?
New
What's a
line
new
character.
New line, صح? Nothing new. طيب, والpercent f?
format operator.
It's basically format operator for the double. It's a format operator for the double. Okay, so it's similar to what we used to do in Python. It's not exact. But it is similar, right? But it is similar. So if you run this, for example, it will put the output, that equals, and then instead of the %f, it will give you 16.090000, and then kilometers. Now, why do we have it this way? Why do we have this number of decimal digits? Well, this is the default decimal digits. If you do not specify, something like, 2.5 to say that there are 5 decimal digits. If you don't do that, it will give you this number by default. Okay, it will give you this number by default. So this is basically called a placeholder, and it marks the place in a format string where a value will be printed out or will be read. The percent symbol, right? We used to call it the format string operator, and it also served as a placeholder also, right? Format strings can have multiple placeholder if you are printing multiple values. So what are the placeholders for the different types? Well, for printing or for scanning, for displaying or for reading a character input, we use %c. Okay, we use %c. To read or display an integer, we use %d. Now, this is exactly the same as in Python, where we print using, %d. Now, double is a little bit different. For displaying, we use the %f. For displaying, we use the %f. For reading input, we use %lf. Okay, we use %lf. So this is kind of like a little bit different from well, not a little, too much different from Python, right? But as far as the %f and %d, it's basically the same. Okay, it is basically the same. Right. So how does the scanf function work? Well, remember when we read in Python, what did we do?
input.
input. طيب, والinput ايش سوينا فيه؟ What's the result of the input? What's the result of the input?
Shows the prompt and let the user put something.
Put something.
String.
طيب, that thing is a string, صح? That thing is a string. If we wanted to read a double, or float, or integer, what did we do?
Int or float couple الinputs.
We used int or float, and then enclose the input statement between the brackets, صح? And then enclose the input. Here, no. Here, what we will do is, if my input variable miles is a double, okay, what I will do is I will use the ampersand before it. Okay, of course, I will use the scanf. I will use the string, the format string, and I will use %lf. But instead of using just the variable name, I need to use the ampersand. The ampersand, by the way, is what we call the, it tells you that this is the address, which means that I want to change the value of miles. Now, we will come to that, inshallah, when we talk about, call by value and call by reference, right? So the ampersand here is the address in our current terminology, the reference operator. it tells scanf the address of variable miles in memory. Why? Because we want to put the value that we read from the input, we want to put it in that variable, okay? We want to put it in that variable. The reason is that parameters in function calls in C are all called what we call by value. They are called by value. Yani, if you call scanf and without using the ampersand, it will just use the value of miles. And even if you try to change the value of miles, by, assigning something to it, it will not be assigned because the call is by value. Because the call is by value. And that's why we have to use the reference to that variable. We have to use the address of that variable. How do I access the address of that variable? Using the ampersand. Using the ampersand. Now, if you don't understand fully the picture, hold with me until we finish the last set of slides when we talk about pointers and references. Inshallah, it will be very clear there. For now, whenever you read something, you need to use the ampersand. You use the scanf, you use the corresponding placeholder, and don't forget the ampersand. This is what I want you to know for now. واضح يا شباب? So when the user inputs a value, it is stored in miles. The placeholder %LF tells the scanf the type of the data to store into variable miles. It tells it the type of the data to store, right? And the reason for that is, it will, for example, know how many bytes shall I reserve for that. Well, it's already, it should be, it's already known, but it will know, the value and the value of what you are planning to take. It will read it in its proper, type, in its proper type. Okay, so let's move on now to arithmetic expressions, and then maybe we will see an example. We'll look at an example, C code. Okay, so to solve most programming problems, you need to write arithmetic expressions that compute data type, int, and double, and sometimes character. Arithmetic expressions contain variables, constants, function calls, arithmetic operators, as well as sub-expressions written within parentheses. Is this the new?
Nope.
It's not, huh? Arithmetic expressions in Python are the same as arithmetic expressions in C. You have addition, subtraction, multiplication, division, and remainder. Maybe here you don't have explicitly the floor division or the integer division, right? But we will see now it's a little bit more complicated. We will basically talk about it, right? And these are examples of the use of the expressions. As you can see, the addition, if you are adding two integers, the result is an integer. If you are adding two doubles, the result is a double. And similarly for subtraction, similarly for multiplication, and look at here, similarly for division. Now, notice here that when I divided 5 by 2, where 5 was an integer and 2 was an integer, what was the result?
Integer.
The result was an integer. The result was an integer. So that's why if you program in C, you have to be careful when you carry out your arithmetic expressions. And inshallah, the details are coming. Okay? And then finally, the remainder. Basically, it only supposed to work with integers. So 5 mod 2, the remainder when I divide 5 by 2 is obviously 1, right? Is obviously 1. So So what is the type of the expression x plus y when x and y are both of type integers? Well, as we saw, the type is an integer. The data type of an expression depends on the types of its operands, right? If both are of type int, the result is of type int. If either one or both are double, the result is double. If one of them or both of them are double, the result is double. Okay? An expression that has mixed operands of the type int and double is what we call a mixed type expression. Is what we call a mixed type expression. And you have to be careful here because from what we will see, by the way, this will be a source of very nice, tricky multiple choice questions. Okay? A source of very nice, tricky multiple choice questions. So the expression being evaluated and the variable to which it is assigned have different data types in what we call a mixed type assignment statement. In a mixed type assignment statement, we have the expression being evaluated and the variable to which it is assigned have different data types, right? So how do we evaluate and how do I know exactly what the result is going to be? Well, this is what needs to be done. First of all, the expression is first evaluated. The expression is first evaluated. Then the result is assigned to the variable to the left side of the assignment operator. Okay? The result is assigned to the variable to the left side of the assignment operator. So for example, what is the value of y equal 5 divided by 2 when y is of type double? When y is of type double. Right. Now here, it says the answer is 2.0. It says the answer is 2.0. طيب, y is double. Can anybody tell me why didn't I store 2.5? It's already double.
Because you should first evaluate the right side.
Because we first have to evaluate the right-hand side. The right-hand side of the assignment statement contains what? Contains an integer divided by an integer. Contains an integer divided by an integer. So if for example, let's see here. So in our hello world, you know, example, let's define, you know, double y, right?
Doctor,
Now,
can you zoom in, please?
Okay. Is that better?
Now we are in, okay, yeah, now it's better.
Okay. تمام. So we have double y, okay? We have double y, and then let's say y equals 5 divided by 2. Okay? Y equals 5 divided by 2. Now, when I evaluate 5 divided by, when I evaluate 5 divided by 2, how do I evaluate it? Well, it's an integer divided by an integer. The result is an integer. So the result of 5 divided by 2 is 2, the integer 2. Now, the integer 2 being assigned to a double, what would that do? It would basically store it as 2.0 instead of 2. That's it. It will store it as 2.0 instead of 2. So here, if I say y equals, and let's say %f, okay, and let's put the y here, okay? Let's put the y here, and let me run this code, and let's see what does it give. شايفين يا شباب؟ y equal 2.0000, because the result was an integer. Okay, the result was an integer, right? So so assignment of a type double expression to a type integer variable causes the fractional part of the expression to be lost. If we do it the other way around, so in the other way around, assume that I have, 5 divided by 2, like this. I have 5 divided by 2. Now this is double. The problem is if y was an integer. Well, in that case, what will happen? Well, let's see what will happen. So if we come here and let's do one of them. Let's make one of them double, because we know for sure that the result is going to be double, right? So, and let's, instead of double here, we'll make it int y. We will make it int y, and of course I need to change this to d. Now let's run this and see what's going to happen. The 2.5 is gone.
دكتور
Not the 2.5, I mean the 0.5, the fractional part is basically gone. أيوة.
what if it was negative 5 over 2?
It's the same. You mean it will give you -3 instead of
Yes.
-2? Well, let's see together. That's a very good question. But it basically, it removes the fractional part. It does not round. واضح?
اي واضح.
Yeah, it just removes the fractional part. It just removes the fractional. But that's a very good question. Okay.
دكتور,
نعم.
either double 5 or double 2 will create a double
Yes,
result.
a double result. Yeah, the result of the expression will be double if one of the operands is double. Not, it's not like the two have to be double in order for the whole thing to be double. Okay. Right. Okay. Right. So this is one thing when the programmer does not interfere in the expression, right? You just write the expression as is, depending on the types of the variables, Now, C allows the programmer to convert the type of an expression by placing the desired type in parentheses before the expression. This is basically called a typecast. Right? So, for example, if you had 5 over 2, you could have used, double 5. If you put double before 5, the 5 will become double. Okay, the 5 will become double. And in this case, the expression will be basically double. It will be evaluated to double, and it will be the proper value, which is 2.5. Right. In the same way, when we do when you put int before, for example, this expression, then what will happen is this expression will be evaluated. This is multiplication of an integer with a double, so the result is double, so the result is 4.5, صح? And then when we do what we call this typecast, int 4.5, the fractional part will be, dropped, and the value that will be returned is the 4. The value that will be returned is the 4. Okay? So when casting from double to integer, the decimal fraction is truncated, not rounded. The fractional part is truncated, not rounded, right? Right. So let's look at this example here. And in this example, basically what we will do is we will see how do we, read or different types of, different types of variables. So let me Control A, Control V. Okay. So in this code, now as you can see here, what do we, I don't have, the nice input function. Now I have to, use the printf, to print my prompt. To ask the user, to prompt the user to enter something, I have to use the printf. Okay, I have to use the printf. So enter the total student score. So this will read the total variable, and don't forget the ampersand, and the total is an integer. Enter the number of students. This is the number of students, and again, don't forget the ampersand. And now, to compute the average, we basically use double total over double students. In fact, we don't have to use the double both, yani. But anyways, so let's try to let's run this. Oops, I thought myself on Jupyter. Okay, F9. Right. So enter total student scores. So let's say 96, okay? And how many students do I have? I have 10. So this means that the average is 9.6. The average, and do you notice here what did I use? Percent dot 2f. Dot 2f. Exactly the same as what we learned in Python. Okay? So whatever I need from the value I will use, but then after the decimal point, I will only use two decimal points. Okay, 2 digits after the decimal point. واضح؟ طيب. So as I said, if you remove this double, we will still get the same thing. Okay, we will still get the same thing. So if I have 96 again, and the number of students is 10, it will also be 9.6. Okay, nothing will go wrong.
Doctor,
Now,
what if we put scanf under the first printf, so we'll have two scanf after the first print?
it will wait until you read the input. So we can do it this way. We can simulate it by commenting this printf, صح? So now we have two scanfs after one printf. مظبوط ولا لا؟
Yes.
So now if I run F9, now it will only tell me enter the total student score. So I will put 96, and then I press enter, and basically nothing will happen until I type the 10 and I press enter again, and the average score is 9.6. Okay. تمام.
So each scanf is related to one printf.
Yes, we have to have a scanf related to a printf because we don't have an input function in C like Python. واضح؟
Yes.
تمام. Okay.
Doctor,
نعم.
we should use the ampersand in the scanf with all types of data.
Yes. No, if your data is already a reference, it's already a pointer, you don't have to. But I don't know if we will talk about that in the last week ولا لا. But as far as the data types that we are aware of, like in double character, you have to use an ampersand. Okay.
Yes, clear.
ممتاز. طيب. So let's now go to expressions with multiple operators and look at rules for evaluating expressions. So operators are of two types, unary and binary. Unary operators take only one operand, like the unary minus and the unary like the unary plus. They take only one operand. The binary operators, they take two operands, like all the operands that we have seen, like addition, subtraction, multiplication. I don't know why multiplication did not come properly here. Inshallah, we'll fix it. Division and integer remainder operator. Let me try to see if I can fix it. Subtraction, multiplication. For some reason, it's okay. Fine. It's gonna take me more time, so I'll do it some other time. So this is so basically we have the. Let's remove this. At least we'll have them. Yeah. So now, yeah. So this is the addition, subtraction, multiplication, division, and the remainder operator, or yeah, the remainder operator. A single expression could have multiple operators, like for example, I have minus a plus b times c minus d over 2, right? So the question is, well, how do I evaluate, expressions? Well, they are not going to be that different from, they're not going to be that different from the rules for expression evaluation in Python. The only thing is, I need to make sure that, the precedence rules are conformed to. That's it, right? So the first one is the parentheses rule. All expressions in parentheses must be evaluated separately, right? Nested parenthesized expressions must be evaluated from the inside out, with the innermost expression evaluated first. The innermost expression evaluated first. Then we have the precedence rules, operator precedence rules. Multiple operators in the same expression are evaluated in the following order. So we start with the unary operators, like unary minus. Then we look at the multiplication, division, and the mod operator. These are at the second level. And in the third level, we have the binary addition and subtraction. We have the binary addition and subtraction. So these are the precedence rules. Now we come to the associativity rules. If we have the same operator repeated, how do we evaluate that operator? For unary operators in the same sub-expression and at the same precedence level are evaluated right to left. For unary operators, they are evaluated right to left. For binary operators in the same sub-expression and at the same precedence level, these are evaluated from left to right. So for example, addition, subtraction, division, if you have more than one addition, more than one subtraction, more than one division, they are evaluated from left to right. Associativity rules say you evaluate them from left to right. Okay, so let's look at this example of evaluating area equals pi multiplied by radius multiplied by radius. Now here, what do we have? We have more than one multiplication, right? And these are binary. These are binary. So so there is no precedence. There are no parentheses. So we apply the associativity rule. What does the associativity rule say? Well, for binary operators like addition and multiplication, or subtraction and addition, subtraction, or multiplication, division, we do it basically from left to right. So we will evaluate this first, pi multiplied by radius, and then, you know, we will evaluate the result multiplied by the radius. Okay, and this will basically in the end be stored, or after the expression is evaluated, the assignment operation takes place. The assignment to the variable area takes place, right? So if we have this example here, so as you can see, this is carried out first. So this is the first value, and then this value is multiplied by the radius to get the result, and then this result is assigned to the variable area, area. Right. Now, what about here? What is the first rule that we should apply?
Parentheses.
Parentheses, right? So make sure that you have the parentheses, right? Make sure that you have the parentheses, okay? And once you have the parentheses, then we can start, you know, the evaluation from left to right. When we see a parentheses, we evaluate the parentheses first, right? So we start with this parentheses here, P2 minus P1, P2 minus P1. So we will evaluate P2 minus P1 first, right? And then when we see the division, well, since after it is a parentheses, this will be deferred until this is evaluated. So we will evaluate T2 minus T1, right? So this is the second thing that is evaluated. And after we evaluate these two values, so P2 minus P1, the result is 4.5. T2 minus T1, the result is 60. Now we evaluate 4.5 divided by the 60. This is the third operation to be, you know, to be carried out. And finally, after I find the 0.075, I will assign it to the V. I will assign it to the V. So our rule of thumb, you know, in evaluating arithmetic expressions is that first, you know, we need to apply the parentheses rule. We need to apply the precedence rules. You fully parenthesize the expression, and after you fully parenthesize the expression, you can basically start evaluating the expression going from left to right. Okay, going from left to right.
Doctor,
So yes.
can you give me an example of unary expression? Something like that.
Well, for example, if you have something like this, let's see, if I go here, let us remove all this. Okay, so let's say if you have int, you know, x equals, well, int x, y, z, okay, and then you have x equal 1, y equals 2, and then z equals minus, and then you can say minus x plus y. Okay, and then printf, the value of z equals, and then %d. Okay. Right. Okay. So this is an example of unary operator. I have used here minus, and then minus, and then the x, right? So So the unary operators are evaluated basically right associative, right? Right associative. And in fact, if you try to do left associative, it will not work. Yani minus minus, you're not. It's not an evaluation, صح? Minus minus. But if you apply minus x, well, that's the negative of x, and then if you apply minus of the minus x, well, now it becomes plus x again. صح ولا لا?
Yes.
So if I run this, as you can see, the value of z is equal to 3. Okay. The value of z is equal to 3. So this was first evaluated, and then followed by this, right? And because the unary operators have higher precedence than the binary operator, then this was evaluated. Okay, then this was evaluated. So how would I carry out the parenthesization in this case? Well, this is what I will do. First of all, I have minus x, so I will put parentheses over minus x, and then I will put the another parentheses over the minus of minus x, right? And then I have the plus y. Of course, I can put parentheses, but these are the outermost parentheses. It doesn't matter. Okay? Right. So now, how do I evaluate the expression? Well, I will start from here. Okay? I will start from here. This is not ready yet, so I'll go to the innermost parentheses. Minus x, now this is ready, so I will evaluate the minus x. Then I'm ready to evaluate the outer parentheses, so I take minus minus x, and finally I evaluate the binary operator. Right. Okay, so these are the arithmetic expressions in C are similar to Python: plus, minus, multiply, divide, and mod. For the assignment, you have seen those in Python, huh? But anyways, we'll see them also in C. We haven't seen them until now, but inshallah we will see them in C. Okay, right. Okay, so let's move on to selection structures. Let's try to take a little bit about selection. In C, selection structures are similar to those in Python, but parentheses are required around the expression. In Python, did we require parentheses around a condition?
No.
No.
We did not. Huh? We did not. In C, لا, we require. Okay, we require to have parentheses around the condition. The semicolon is required if the body of the if is a single statement. This semicolon, right? And of course, indentation is not required, but highly recommended. Indentation is not required, but highly recommended. This is what I usually use for indenting if statements. I will put the open curly brace in the same line as the if, and the second one is in the same column with the same column of the if to know that this basically belongs to this if. Okay. Some other authors, they like to have this actually also here. Okay. It's a matter of taste. You can choose whatever you want. You can do whatever you want. Okay. You can do whatever you want. So this is regarding the structure of the if statement. For example, if we have something like this: if x is greater than 4, y equals 7. Now, since here I don't have the curly braces, I know that my body of the if statement is a single statement. My body is a single, and in this case, it is basically this statement: y equals 7. In this case, it is y equal 7, right? So we are done with the first if statement. Do I have to tell you what does the if statement do or how does it work?
No.
You already know. You already know. Now we can go directly to the if else. Does C allow or have an else? And the answer is yes. And the answer is yes. So like Python, C allows an else clause. Okay. And whatever we said regarding the body of the if statement, you know, if it was compound, I need to use the curly braces. If it is a single statement, I can just, you know, write that statement and end it with a semicolon. The same rules apply in the body of the else. So after the else, if I have a compound statement, I need to execute more than one statement, I use the curly braces. If not, well, you just do this z equal 10. Okay, so طيب. Now, what does this mean? Oh, you already know what does that mean. If x was less than or equal to 5, this will be executed. If x was greater than 5, this will be executed. هذا خلاص. This is we're done from that, right? We are done from
Doctor,
that. نعم.
can we put double equal sign? Does
Yes.
it
If
evaluate?
yeah, if you say here if x equal 5, it will check whether the two values are equal or not. It will not be an assignment. Oh, هيها. Is that what you're asking?
Yes, yes. Then, Doctor, I'm familiar with Python, so I'd like to apply my knowledge in Python also in C. So I want to know if it's applicable or not.
It is. It is. It is the relational operator. The equal is the relational operator, just like Python. Just like Python. The only thing here is that C does not have the elif keyword. Does not have the elif keyword. You need to use the else if. Okay? You need to use the else if. And why did Python have an elif? Well, the reason why Python had an elif is that it's much clearer if you have an elif. You know that that you have else if, else if, else if. Whereas here, you might think, if you have else if and then else, well, this else is for what? For which if, right? It's not that clear. We have to go back to the language, to the C language, and we need to determine, how do we interpret this? How do we interpret this? Okay, so maybe this is a good point to stop. Inshallah, we will we'll continue about if statement بإذن الله on Saturday, which is our Tuesday, huh? We'll try to do that بإذن الله. Any questions يا شباب?
Doctor, if we have multiple conditions in else, we need to put the curly braces or whatever the name on else.
Yes. If you have multiple, inshallah, let me see. I think we'll talk about it. But basically, what will happen is, for example, if you want the else to apply for only this condition, yani all the else is for this condition, then after this else, you can put a curly brace and you can put whatever if conditions you want to put inside that statement. So it will be all else for only this condition. Okay, but if you type else if, then these are basically similar to the elif statement. Okay, but inshallah, we'll talk about it.
So, Doctor,
No.
if we have the curly brackets and include the else there, it will be like the nested ifs. in Python?
Yes, exactly.
Okay.
And we will have nested, and we do have nested ifs in C. Okay.
تمام.
طيب. اوكي. So سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك اشهد ان لا اله الا انت استغفرك واتوب اليك. نراكم على